everybody. Nice to see you again. I know it's been a while. I didn't mean to be away this long, but I've been very busy. Recently, I got an opportunity that I just had to take, and I'm taking it, okay? I basically got John Cena, okay? I got a shot that I didn't deserve, okay? And now I'm working my ass off next to coworkers that are like twice as qualified as me. But isn't that the meaning of life? Isn't that what we all want in life? To get John Cena, to get a shot, a push that we don't deserve, you know? I got it. Now I'm just going to have to work my ass off to make sure I don't get booed out of the arena, so to speak. But on with the video. First, as always, let's start with our subscriber of the day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is time to give acknowledgement and recognition to one of your fellow wrestling fans. And the one randomly selected this time is... We've seen enough! Congratulations, you are our subscriber of the day! Now, okay, everybody, in appreciation of We've Seen Enough for being a wrestling fan, let's all imitate and copy John Cena coming down the aisle like he just got poked in the ass, okay? Ready? One, two, three.
Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now.
Tune in next time to see who will be our next subscriber of the day. Alright, now, as most of you know, TNA Genesis was last week. I watched it, I ordered it, and it was great from top to bottom. TNA delivered once again. Alright, the only thing I missed was the pregame show and the intro. I ordered the pay-per-view at 7:30 when the pregame show was starting, and I had to drive out to do some stuff, and by the time I got back, Abyss was already wrestling on the TV. But from what I saw from then to the end, it was really, really a great, solid pay-per-view. TNA delivered once more. Alright, the only thing I missed was the intro, but you know what? I don't think I missed much. The TNA pay-per-view intros have got to be one of their weakest points ever, okay? Like, they always have the same guy. They always have the TNA Destination X. You know, like, who is that guy? Why is it always him? You know? And the intros are all exactly the same. They follow, like, the same formula. It's getting so old, you know? Like, all they do is they take a word out of the dictionary, they define the word, and then they apply it to the matches that night. You know, for example, they'll say, justice, to make right. Tonight, Kurt Angle seeks justice from Christian Cage for blah blah blah, you know? Or stamina, the ability to endure. Tonight, these soldiers walk into the war zone, you know, to endure the gauntlet match, you know? It's just all the same shit, you know? Like, Turning Point hasn't even happened yet. But how much you want to bet the intro is going to be something like this? Penis, the male organ. Tonight, these gladiators enter the ring, ready to stick it to each other for supreme satisfaction. TNA, Turning Point. You know, just stupid shit like that, you know? Like, TNA, please, do something about your intros, alright? They're getting really old and stale. They're getting Cena stale. Please, like, get that guy. Maybe you can get him to do it for the big pay-per-views like Slammiversary or Bound for Glory, but not every single one. It gets really, really old. So that's all I got to say about that, alright? Now, on to Survivor Series. Yes, I'm talking about Survivor Series with... Yes, I'm talking about Survivor Series and Genesis in the same pay-per-view. What changed the fuck? Well, hello all, but yeah, I ordered Survivor Series as well, and I'm sure most people would agree that it was alright. You know, like somewhere in the middle. Where in the middle is debatable, but somewhere in the middle. My main problem with Survivor Series was that it didn't feel like a Survivor Series. It felt more like a New Year's Revolution or something. You know? The WWE has watered down the identity of Survivor Series. You know, wasn't it supposed to be the Thanksgiving elimination match tradition? First they take away the Thanksgiving part, And now we should be thankful if we get one elimination match. And on top of that, the teams in the elimination match don't even make sense. You know, what were the teams? You know, like Umaga, who for some reason is with Kennedy, and like Big Daddy V and Finley. Like, what are they doing together? It was like they were thrown together as an afterthought. Even the website called them a hodgepodge of wrestlers. You know, remember when Survivor Series teams made sense? Remember teams like the Hulkamaniacs, where it was Hulk Hogan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Tugboat, and the Big Boss Man? You know, they were all patriotic Americans, and on top of that, they were all good friends within the context of the storyline, so the team made sense. And when the team makes sense, it's memorable. Teams like Roddy's Rowdies and Rude's Brood. You know, they're watering down the identity of Survivor Series, and I don't like it. They need to go back to the roots of what Survivor Series is supposed to be about. You know, and when I was watching this pay-per-view, you know, I tried to actually watch it like the wrestling analysts online. I tried to break it down into matches, like the first ECW match and then the next match. I tried to break it down into matches, what happened in the matches, and then tried to give each match a star rating to determine how many good and bad matches there were to determine the quality of the product. You know, and it felt bad, you know. I felt like I was dumbing myself down because I felt like I was ignoring so many of the aspects of sports entertainment that I value. Things like character profile, character development, storyline progression and build-up, and hype towards the pay-per-view, and how the pay-per-view builds and progresses the storyline within the overall direction of the company. You know, it ignores all of that. You know, it's like trying to judge, the way they do it is like trying to review a car by saying, oh, it has decent tires, a great engine, and a sucky interior. Pretty good car. You know what? What about the rest of it? You know, like, what about the service and the warranty? You know, and the ride and the handling? What about all the rest? You know? There's so much more to sports entertainment than just the match itself. So when you're using just individual isolated matches in a vacuum to judge overall product quality, it's so misleading. It might be comforting, but it's misleading. You know? Like, I'm sure there were plenty of bad, horrible matches during the Attitude Era, which you could point out, and horrible matches in pay-per-views, which you can point out. But why was the Attitude Era so good? Why did it get 11.0 ratings? Because of the rest. You know, why is the wrestling so sucky today? What is a big reason for its suckiness of today, besides the matches? The rest.